In this episode, Serenity Now for Entrepreneurs chats with Donna Chang of Wakefield Agency, a B Corp certified organization that is driven by impact with their team, clients, and in the community. She shares the realities of building a business that strives for more than just revenues and profits. In fact, there is more interest now than ever before to build companies that generate a triple bottom line, including people, profit, and the planet. How did company values support Wakefield's journey in becoming a B Corp?
Alongside, but also separate from, is some of the values work that I've been doing with our organization. And I think it really ties in with the why behind the B Corp. Because there may be some B Corps up there that are like, maybe it's more of a marketing reason why they're getting their B Corp, because there's a certain certification that looks good. But I think for us and a lot of other B Corps, it's like they're kind of like living it already, or there's values that are driving the impact.
We often hear of people wanting to change the world. Can changes be immediate? Learn what Donna says about this.
If you're wanting to have impact in your organization, you're trying to change the world in some way, that kind of change doesn't happen in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, it's over years.
This information shared on this podcast will resonate differently for our listeners. Some of you may think it's basic, and while that may be the case, a key challenge is lack of consistency. B Corp helps companies with measuring impact and keeps organizations accountable to their triple bottom line goals. If you are considering the certification, we hope that this episode provides the guidance you seek and some serenity now. Let's take a listen. Welcome to this episode of Serenity Now for Entrepreneurs. Today, I have a sister from another mother, Donna Chang of Wakefield Agency, joining us. Welcome, Donna.
Thanks, Steph, and great to meet this group of entrepreneurs here. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, so Donna and I had met, I'm going to say just about 8 or 9 years ago. And at that point in time, she was just starting out her business. I've seen her business grow a lot, and she's pivoted as well. I know that's a key word through the pandemic and continues to be. So we thought it would be great for Donna to share a little bit more about her business and also the journey and what are some areas and points that other entrepreneurs could be able to take, especially since she comes from a creative background as well. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom that can be shared today. So Donna, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Wakefield and a little bit more about yourself?
Cool. Thanks, Steph. So I co-run an organization called Wakefield Agency, and we are a video storytelling creative agency. And so what we're finding is that a lot of organizations are out there, they're telling their stories, but they're kind of having trouble standing up to the competition, especially because we work with impact-based, values-driven organizations. And so at Wakefield, we're finding that we're helping these companies tell their stories so people choose to buy what they do. And I think deeply we believe that when their stories are well told, it gives them that space for their organization to grow. And so, we help values-driven organizations get their stories out there and just help them create that movement of change that they're trying to do.
I love it. And so walk us through a little bit of how you started the entrepreneurial journey, because I know that you started with videography and corporate videos. And so tell the audience a little bit more about that.
Cool. So the synopsis is, the month before my husband and I get married, we've kind of been dabbling in digital cameras. And then we ended up filming, a good friend of mine who's a Juilliard grad, filmed a music video for her, loved it, fell in love with it. We both had our good Asian careers. He was an engineer, I was a business major, having kind of that path, and never considered the arts or the creative. And when that happened, when we did that first music video, we're like, wow, I just came alive in a way that had never happened before for us. And so that kind of began the journey. Got married, spent a few years filming all of our friends' weddings, and then people wanted to pay us for it, which then led to people in the organization crying over the videos we're making during the ceremony because it's an emotional day. And they're like, people in the audience that ran businesses were crying over our videos. And then they were like, we need a story like that for our organization. And so we started telling more corporate stories, which led to us, because of our nature of wanting to tell heartfelt stories, genuine stories, helping companies with corporate social responsibility arms, like departments. And so we started telling the stories of impact there. But then after a few years, just feeling like, is this it? Are we just a cog in some marketing PR wheel where we're telling these stories for marketing purposes? And kind of led us down a path of going, okay, what is impact? What does it mean to tell stories that are kind of shifting the way people think and making the world better, and so to speak. And so that actually was the beginning of us searching for what that meaning in our work and storytelling would look like, which kind of led down to this kind of discovering a bit more about B Corp.
Mm-hmm. For our audience members, tell us a little bit about what B Corp means, because I think it's a newer term, but probably some of you have heard Patagonia recently, the business owner of Patagonia donating his company into a trust, and B Corp really stemmed from him and the way that he ran his business. So if you could share a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. I think stemming from the corporate social responsibility, that was a big movement. I don't know how many years ago, but like, I think when you look at B Corp, for me, when I kind of discovered, learned about it a few years ago, it was really around, companies from a marketing purpose can talk a really good talk of how great their company is. But I feel like B Corp's a great way to go, okay, who are the ones walking the walk and like talking the talk and walking the walk of change and impact. And I think B Corp is this very rigorous assessment looking at how companies are being a positive impact for the world. In terms of how they impact their communities, their environmental impact, how they treat their workers, how they set up their governmental policies as a corporation, and getting a score on each of these categories and seeing where they rank. And I don't know how many we have around the world now, but last I checked, there's probably like 3,500 plus around the world. And it's kind of a very rigorous bar to meet. And it kind of shows you for me, actually, what it really did was kind of open up the world of impact. Like, what is impact? And so this kind of gave me this sense of, where do I stand in the midst of that? And it opened my eyes to how much more impact there was out there that I had no clue about before B Corp.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. You mentioned before that you were creating these marketing videos for companies that were saying they were doing this great job, but it sounded like you weren't entirely sure that they were the impact they were making, or like walking the walk, talking the talk. And so now, do you exclusively work with companies that are B Corp, or is that your intention as a company?
We do not exclusively work with B Corps. We do work with a handful of B Corps because I do believe change and growth is sort of this never-ending continuum. And if you could compare it with working with dinosaurs versus hipsters or people who are like there's a spectrum of change and growth, right? And so I think when there's a company that is values-driven, they desire to see impact, they're trying to take steps, I think that's great. I think it's the posture of the heart and the leaning in of it that makes for great heart and great stories, which is why we work with small to medium businesses, where we can work with the founders and their vision for change and growth. So we do not only work with B Corps only.
How is being a B Corp or working into that, how has that impacted your marketing?
That's interesting. So I would say that once we became a B Corp, it was like, I think before becoming a B Corp, we're like, oh yeah, we're doing pretty good. Like, we're making impact, we're doing some cool stuff. And then going through that process kind of opened us up. We're like babies in this area. Now when we got our B Corp certification, it was like, now we are at the start line of impact and starting our journey. And it's not in a crushing, overwhelming, like there's so much to do way, but it's growing in self-awareness of what impact means. And even when you're in it, it's like, there's just so much change and growth needed, right? So, and in terms of impact on our marketing, I know we're doing some ongoing growth and changes now, but alongside, but also separate from, is some of the values work that I've been doing with our organization. And I think it really ties in with the why behind the B Corp, because there may be some B Corps up there that are like, maybe it's more of a marketing reason why they're getting their B Corp, because there's a certain certification that looks good. But I think for us and a lot of other B Corps, it's like they're kind of like living it already, or there's values that are driving the impact. So getting the B Corp just sort of adds fuel to the fire of those values, and it sort of grows alongside with that. So it's having that language show up, the values language and the impact language show up more in the marketing communications, which is now what's kind of showing up in our business marketing.
Donna, I am a dinosaur.
Sorry.
But I always had certain values in my company, and they weren't certified, and they were created by me, and I have no idea if I was on the right track. We talk a lot about these values and the impact. Can you define for our listeners explicitly, like, what value are we talking about? Are we talking about climate change? Are we talking about be good to your employees? Or what is it you're talking about? What kind of impact are you trying to make? Local, regional, international, global? Like, what is what? Break these words down for me. I'm the dinosaur in the group.
Okay.
You're a dinosaur, so you're
not a dinosaur. Well, I think it's any and all of it, but I think each business has a certain purpose and a certain calling to fulfill. So it might be super hyper local, or maybe, regional or international. I think it's getting clear on what that is. In terms of values, for me, values speak into culture. And oftentimes companies can create values or create a mission statement and go, okay, good, we're done. Now we can, close the book and put it away. Or maybe they put it on their wall and then it's like, okay, now we can just move on with business. But I do think values-driven organizations are ones that talk about their values pretty much every day, or they're finding ways to go. So how are we, okay, it's great that we have the values. What does it look like on the ground? What does it look like today? How do we interact with our clients? How do we interact with each other? How are we supporting each other? And that's something that we kind of bring up weekly with our team. Like, okay, so one of our values is alongside, which really helps us through with some, when clients, sometimes there's some challenges or difficulties with maybe how a project is going, and how do we lean into coming alongside our client and being like a team member on their team, a partner, how does that show up? And so we'll celebrate those wins, and we'll maybe debrief on areas, we could have leaned in more this way. And it's like treating it like Play-Doh, like getting in there, massaging it, testing it out, talking about what worked, what didn't work, celebrating wins. I think that's one way that the values get translated into the culture of the organization.
That's a good story. That's a good insight into it. We used to say to our clients when we signed them on is we weren't looking for a, can I say this online? Wham, bams, thank you, ma'am, kind of relationship. We were looking for a long-term relationship. We were willing to reduce our cost for that long-term relationship. And the other thing that we always said is we want to be an extension of your team. We don't want to be seen as an external accountant. We want to be seen as part of your team. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of dinosaur values we had.
Well, if you're a dinosaur, I'm a dinosaur as well, Peggy. So we follow the same sort of values and alignments. It just kind of goes back to, I guess, values and alignment are coming back to how you were raised.
Yeah.
And then we take that and put it right back into our own companies. Mm-hmm. And for us is rule number one, treat others the way you want to be treated, for goodness sakes. If someone's trying to call you, pick up the phone, whether it's a tough call or it's going to be a fun call, you just still have to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, that what riffs off of me for that, I heard recently, that there's that golden rule, right? Like you said, treat others the way you would want to be treated. Have you guys heard of the platinum rule?
What's that?
Treat others the way they want to be treated.
Oh. That is good.
I thought that was interesting, actually. Yeah, because it's still like what we think is good for them versus, okay, so tell us more. Let me understand your context better, and then let me come alongside that. So, I thought that comes to mind with like a lot of our projects can be 3 to 4 to 5, 6 months in term. But what's really been shifting and pressing into our values is our work with our Indigenous client, which is totally indigenizing us in terms of what relationship and alongside looks like. It's probably our longest client. We're on a 3-year journey with them. And then now it's shifting the way we look at projects where, we're doing this project right now, but we're really looking at what does long-term relationship look like? What is this? And it's leading us to get into more documentary work, actually, where we're like, yes, we can do an impact. We can do several impact pieces for the now. But if you're wanting to have impact in your organization, you're trying to change the world in some way, that kind of change doesn't happen in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, it's over years, right? And so it's even shifting us and looking at what long-term relationship looks like and how do we come alongside. And every piece adds to this bigger story, and being okay with the unknown, being okay with, these are phases, and which is actually really enriching the depth of relationship with our clients.
Donna, tell us a little bit about how becoming a B Corp has impacted your corporate culture and your team.
Well, one thing that we started at the beginning of January this year was like we moved to a 4-day work week. So last year, in preparation for that, we put the team through a productivity course. It's called Productivity Ninja. To go, okay, like we want to move to a 4-day work week where there's more of an emphasis around wellness, more emphasis around, okay, so if we're hitting our milestones, we're getting all the work done, what could a 4-day work week look like? And the whole team was just really dialed into that, because one of our values, which has kind of been merged into another now, is rest. How do we rest well? And then, and how that feeds into our work. And also trusting that like not everything has to be like narrowed in, focused on, and like till it's done, kind of like drilling it down, where sometimes there's a bit of ebb and flow in space, and sometimes more gets done when we're not like so dialed in a very sniper way. I don't know how to explain that exactly. There's this ebb and flow of life and things coming together that if you just stop meddling with it, it just sort of just comes. So
I can relate to that, Donna.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that yesterday, right, Candace? And we were saying sometimes you actually have to walk away and do something else or focus on something else and allow the process to continue subconsciously in the back of your mind. And then you come back and it's like, boom, there it was. You just needed that step away to come back, and then it moves forward even faster and better than you had originally thought.
Yeah,
totally.
Sometimes in the creative space or in web design or coding, you have to be like you think you have to be hardwired in, and you can't stop. And like if you're creating a logo, it's like you're painting and you can't stop painting until it's done. But sometimes stepping back and taking a break and going for a coffee allows you to see a new perspective, or that painting or that design might go in a different direction, or taking a break from that coding and you come back and you see something, you see a mistake. Taking that step back is always a good thing.
Totally. Remember my values professor, I interviewed her once, and she said, yeah, when the work gets doubly hard or doubly intense, that's a time to double down on the things that give you life, or whatever it's like resting, or going for a walk, or like, actually, it's not like doing the more work. It's like, it's doubling up on what's going to help you be well and rested. So I don't know if that's a familiar concept. He has our Serenity Now, so these things, right?
Yeah. Why are you guys laughing? Yes, we are. Yes, we are Serenity Now.
It's totally true, though. Yes.
Just one other
Sorry,
question.
we digressed.
Yeah. No, I mean, so with your team and building your team, you mentioned the 4-day work week, and has the fact that you are B Corp, does that attract, a different type of talent to, or does it change the way that your existing team works?
Okay, well, I think with the B Corp, what it showed when we got it was that, actually how impact shows up for us is in a big part of it is it's kind of not so much direct, but secondary, because we're working with impact-based companies and we're helping tell their stories, which is helping to grow their impact. And so our impact is almost like one step removed in that sense. And so I think the people that are working with us now, and one of the things they do love is that every client we have is impact-based. We have a reason why we're working with them. We believe in what they're trying to do in the world, and it's like a meaningful story. So we have no clients that are like, we're just doing a fancy car ad and for the money, and it's just like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything beyond just the product, but that whether it's Indigenous clients, or we have, environmental clients, or clients that are trying to clean up the oceans, or different consultants, it's all impact. And so it feels really rich. And I think that's one big reason why we have the team that we do.
Yeah, love it. So this takes us to quick fire. And so for our listeners, a quick fire is just a touch base on each of those that are on the podcast today. We'll start with Donna. Is there anything that you feel entrepreneurs should know about your business or B Corp, or a tip or trick or best practice that you would like to share?
Well, in terms of I think what came up when you just started talking was, I think all of us as a business, we all have a desire for impact. We all have a desire to leave something better than it was when we originally encounter it. And I think if anything from the sharing today kind of stirs you, that makes sense, I just encourage you to lean into, looking into B Corp, or looking into getting to 80 with Decade Impact. I actually worked with a consultant to help us kind of navigate into that B Corp space, because when you try to do that assessment on your own, it can be quite overwhelming because there's a lot of complex questions. Mm-hmm. But doing something like a Getting to 80 helps kind of wrap your head around that space, and they kind of help interpret a lot of the questions so you can practically see how it applies or not apply to your business. But it also just opens up more into the world of impact, because you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation if you want to find out more about it. That's one thought.
I'm going to thank you for the platinum rule. I think I'm going to change my golden rule to the platinum rule. I like that better.
I like that too.
Treat others as they want to be treated. I totally understand the under vibe to that. And I'm going to work on that. Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed hearing about your company and about B Corp. I didn't know that much about it. So it was great to hear about how it's impacted your company, your growth, your marketing, your corporate culture, and how much you believe in your clients. I love that. I think that's all what we all strive for, is working with clients where we really believe in what they're doing and helping them achieve what they're trying to achieve. And so you're secondary to the impact. I love that.
I mean, I would just say I'm super proud of you, Donna, as you have grown as an entrepreneur and as a person. I do really feel like this experience of going through the B Corp and even determining whether or not this is something, because it's a rigorous process, is this something that you want to invest your time and effort into? And the fact that you followed through with it, it just creates a very unique differentiator that speaks to your love and passion for impact. And so thank you for showing up that way in the world.
I love that you know who you are and you've translated that into your company, and that you live it and you breathe it, you work it. I think that's a big congratulations.
I'm just going to echo the sentiments of my sisters here. I think it's really important for people to understand why they're in business. And what you're doing is trying to say, well, we started the business, we did well, but whoa, let's take a step back and let's remember why we're actually here. And getting a chance to work with those that are like-minded, that you love sharing the story and the impact with, it just, what did we say, doubles or triples or who knows what the impact then. So it's important to remember purpose, and that will always help you flow forward.
All right. And with that, we end this episode of Serenity Now for Entrepreneurs. For those entrepreneurs where this resonates with you, we'll put a few links into the write-up of this podcast so that you can learn a little bit more about Wakefield or B Corp or a decade. And thank you so much, Donna, for joining us. I think you being here helps to ensure that listeners gain some serenity now. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed this episode and picked up some good tips and best practices that would benefit your entrepreneurial journey. Remember, none of the content in this podcast should be relied upon as standard legal or business advice. Always consult a professional for your specific business. You may know someone who could benefit from this podcast. Please share it with your business community, and perhaps it can give an entrepreneur you know some serenity now.